Do you remember when Skylar Diggins intentionally bumped into Caitlin Clark and went viral? That was just a glimpse of her behavior during that game. She was trying to provoke Caitlin Clark throughout the game. Caitlin Clark sent her through the ringer. Fans have exposed Diggins by highlighting clips from the game. Right from the very beginning, Diggins was finding it difficult to catch Caitlin Clark's game, which is why she resorted to wild antics. But let me show you how Caitlin successfully outplayed her hater. Judging from her reaction, Diggins must have been questioning why screens like these are allowed in the game. Caitlin Clark once ruptured her ear because of a screen, but didn't complain. On the other hand, Diggins, upset by Clark's abilities, resorted to dirty tactics, going after Clark's hands instead of the ball. But this backfired as Caitlin was simply the better player, both physically and skillfully. Clark easily tossed Diggins aside like a child. Diggins must have been having a bad day, or perhaps a bad season, because her behavior during that game resembled a middle schooler upset after losing a recess game. She looked visibly frustrated, appealing for travel calls and becoming desperate for any opening, only to be outplayed time and again by Caitlin. By the end, Diggins realized she couldn't beat Caitlin in a fair game. Even her unfair tactics failed. This frustration led to her infamous shoulder bump. The Indiana Fever, led by Caitlin Clark, were dominating the Seattle Storm. Clark was electrifying the crowd, while Diggins was busy being outclassed. As the game neared its end, Diggins stormed to the sideline and delivered a shoulder bump to Clark. This wasn't accidental. Her frustration was palpable. The pettiness and passive-aggressive move made her irritation clear, but Clark barely acknowledged it. Diggins was mad because she couldn't stop the corn-fed Iowa girl who dominated on the court. While Caitlin didn't react spontaneously, the tension had been steadily rising and boiled over after the bump. Diggins ignored the rules and ethics of the game, forgetting who she was dealing with, the Rookie of the Year. Clark, meanwhile, continued breaking records, setting the WNBA record for most assists in a rookie season. But Diggins couldn't handle Clark's success, trying to provoke her for a reaction. Instead, Clark hit her with the ultimate insult. "Stop crying." Things got heated as the game closed out with the Fever well ahead. Clark pumped up the crowd, and Diggins delivered another shove. The team's head coaches exchanged words, with the Storm reportedly upset that the Fever kept their starters in with the game in hand. Clark, usually known for her poise and professionalism, couldn't hold back this time. Her clapback, "Stop crying," was the cherry on top, leaving the crowd laughing and Diggins humiliated. This moment became one of the most memorable of Clark's season. Diggins' attempts to provoke Clark only highlighted her own struggles and confirmed Clark's dominance. Whatever the case may be, something is going on with Seattle players who seem to be getting overly aggressive. As this story develops, we'll continue to bring you updates. If you haven't liked my video yet, then please like it and subscribe to the channel. Judging by her response, we can all expect that Diggins must have done something extremely disrespectful to Clark. And she did exactly that. Skylar's antics didn't just reveal her own insecurities, they also exposed the WNBA's broader issue with Caitlin Clark. For some inexplicable reason, the league and some of its established stars seem allergic to fully embracing Clark's meteoric rise. It's as if they see her success as a zero-sum game, as though her ascension somehow diminishes their legacy. Coach Quinn knew full well what was going on, effectively stopping Clark from getting the double-double by pulling her team with 90 seconds left. The Seattle coach was unhappy that sides, the opposing head coach, didn't immediately substitute at the exact same time. And then, take a look at what Skylar Diggins did. Let's be real, Caitlin Clark isn't stealing anyone's thunder. She's the lightning, the storm, the whole atmospheric event. The fact that some players and league insiders treat her like an unwelcome guest rather than the future of women's basketball is baffling. Skylar's shoulder bump was the physical manifestation of that baffling resentment. It's hard not to wonder if Skylar's antics were born out of desperation. While she is a talented player, Caitlin's rise has shifted the balance. Skylar, once a beacon of WNBA star power, now finds herself overshadowed by the younger, flashier, and arguably more marketable Clark. Skylar's actions weren't just about one bad game or a frustrating loss. They were about the shift in dynamics that Clark represents, a shift that some players clearly find hard to accept. Caitlin isn't just playing basketball, she's redefining the game and the league. No more complaining. Stop crying. And that's become an iconic moment, hasn't it? After the game, we saw the exchange between Christie's sides and Quinn. It was one of the standout moments of the Indiana Fever season. It came after Clark was celebrating on the court and Skylar Diggins bumped into her, sparking chaos. Let's not pretend this was an isolated incident. Skylar's antics that night weren't just a moment of frustration. They were a full-blown meltdown disguised as competitiveness. Watching her sulk and lash out at Caitlin felt like watching an older sibling realize the youngest of the family is now the star of family gatherings. Skylar wasn't just mad at losing the game, she was mad at losing the whole narrative. And let's be honest, Caitlin Clark is everything the WNBA needs right now. She's young, dynamic, magnetic, and capable of drawing new fans to the game in droves. Skylar, for her part, is a decent player. But watching her try to steal the spotlight from Clark was like watching someone try to light a candle while a bonfire rages beside them. No matter how hard she tries playing below the belt, Diggins cannot, and I mean cannot, come close to the quality of Caitlin Clark. These cheap tricks and tactics may rattle mediocre athletes, but elite players like Clark remain unfazed. And really, it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Fever fans had to revel in that moment, except for Christy Sides, who apparently didn't like it. But guess what? She's not a part of the fever. Skylar's salty bump and the ensuing drama are just symptoms of a larger problem. Instead of rallying behind Clark and leveraging her star power to elevate the league, the WNBA seems content to let petty rivalries and internal politics dominate the narrative. It's a classic case of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Can you imagine if veterans like Skylar used their platform to mentor and uplift instead of throwing shoulder checks and tantrums? The WNBA has a golden opportunity with Clark, a player who can draw new fans, expand the league's reach, and inspire the next generation of athletes. But instead, moments like this threaten to overshadow all that potential. Let me ask you this. Ain't nobody bumping into A'ja Wilson. A'ja doesn't play that. And nobody is bumping into Breanna Stewart either. If I'm Caitlin Clark, I'd tell Skylar Diggins, get your coat, your hat, and get out of our gym. Clark let her game, and her words do the talking. Her ability to stay composed under pressure, both on and off the court, is part of what makes her such a transformative figure. If Skylar thought her antics would rattle Caitlin, she was sorely mistaken. Instead, she gave Clark yet another opportunity to showcase why she's not just the future of the WNBA, but the present. Skylar Diggins-Smith's frustration is understandable. Losing to a younger, buzzier player is never easy. But her actions in that game were a reminder that greatness isn't just about skill, it's about character. Caitlin Clark has both in spades, and that's why she's winning games, fans, and the future. Skylar, on the other hand, might want to take a deep breath, watch some game tape, and figure out how to handle the changing tides with more grace. Because let's face it, the Caitlin Clark era is here, and no amount of shoulder bumps is going to stop it. I'm not saying I want her to be attacked by other players, but the WNBA hasn't taken any action against these bullies. Does the WNBA really hate Caitlin Clark? The league must be going nuts because they don't want their players distracted by other sports. Well, Caitlin has already stepped into golf and now soccer. Let's see what happens next. Let us know your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to never miss an update. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Subscribe the channel. Thanks you.